Hello. Hey, hi. Good evening to all of you. I hope you can all hear me. Hey, hi, Rama. Very sorry, actually, Sunday, actually, I have some late night some tasks to take care of, so I get very late in that. So, for you, I just got on late in joining this session. Okay. So, yep. So, I think, so Radhika, I received your the W file that you have shared. I will be taking a look at it. So, and I have got it from Harshad, I guess, right? So, Harshad, you also shared that over the email.
Sure. And I'll be sending the other ones also.
Okay. Anything you would like to discuss? Any question if you have or any query on that?
Yeah, actually, I have a question and assignment too.
So,
Open if you want to share.
can you share your screen so that I can have a look at it?
Sorry?
So, you can share your screen so that I can discuss on that if you would like to do it.
Sure. Are you able to see my screen? Okay. 1 second, I need to share the assignment also.
Yeah.
All right. So the data which we have is where we have the customer level orders and returns data for a superstore spread across US. The first thing which says is connect the orders data and join this with the returns data on order ID and make sure all data from the orders tab is imported. So over here, I have joined this as a left join. Would that be correct or should it be an inner join?
So, it should be left join because if you will make an inner join, so you will get only the data for the returned orders.
Right.
Common.
Okay, cool. So that was one question. Then second question was, okay. Second question was, in the question number 2, we have, but in question number 3, we have create a line chart showing the cumulative sales and profit. Add a drop-down filter with multiple selection option to view product category and subcategory. So here, I've created 2 lines, one for profit and one for sales. I've given the 2 filters of product category drop-down and product subcategory drop-down. Now, my question is, how can we link these two? Like, suppose if every category will have some subcategories. So furniture will have some subcategories, but right now it's showing me all the subcategories. So I
do one. So just click on that arrow on the second filter. Just click on this. If you see in the last one, there is coming option, all relevant value, only relevant value. A little up. So right now it is all values in the database, and when you make it only relevant value, it is going to show, if you select furniture, it will show only the subcategory of furniture. Let's change this now.
Okay. Okay. And the question did not mention anything about year. So I've just taken this as year and I've made it multiple axis of sales and profit and I've synchronized the axis. So is this the right way this is supposed to be done?
Right, right.
Okay. All right. These are the 2 questions I have right now. Anything else, I'll just write it down to you only when I'll see this. Okay.
So, anyone else who has?
Hi, Amit. I have a question, Amit. On laptop case study. I have a question on the first question itself, so I couldn't do it.
Can you share your screen? Probably.
Yeah. So even this question, which are the top 20 laptop configuration that were sold in 2015? Net
Question number 1.
Yeah, 1.
Which are the top 20 laptop configurations that were sold in 2015? Make the 20. I mean, basically, you just have to make this thing dynamic, as in parameter you'll have to use, and you have to showcase the top 10 configuration. So in the data you will be having, can you show me the data file?
Okay.
Just click on the data source, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. See, now configuration is something, basically it's more like, uh, I will say, just give me 1 minute. Can you just now, if I just take a look at it, see, basically, have you joined the data, right? So data is joined, I guess, yeah. So what you have to do is, basically, configuration is something which is coming as numeric, but it should not be it should not be numeric. It should be, you should convert it into a dimension. Click on the sheet one. Uh, Clear this chart right now. So if you come at the top, so yeah, so move it. Now bring this into the columns, okay? And now you can put the count of each configuration. No.
Okay.
Control Z, undo. So for each configuration, how many laptops were sold? So you can pick the count column. If you just come down, scroll on the down, POS, yeah. So that put that into the rows. So
Okay.
you can see now, see configuration number 7. You can see
Okay.
count of each configuration of the laptop, how many configuration was sold for each different, how many laptops were sold for each different configurations.
Okay.
Now the question says you have to find the top 20 in 2015. So you will have to use the date field into the filters. So you have to filter the data, years.
It's only 1 year data. We have only 2015
Oh,
data.
okay, it's only one. So in that case, you just have to keep it top. Select, click on top by field, top 20 by count. That's it. By configuration count, you can select configuration count. No, right click on, just remove this filter. No, remove this filter. Select configuration.
Here or here? Can I give access?
Huh. Okay.
Okay.
Now we only have the top 20 configurations.
Okay. So if it is numeric, we can't able to get the count of the particular
No.
new.
So you have to first, so we just had to understand the configuration was just like what type of a laptop was that was so.
Okay. Because I couldn't able to get the count of the configuration, so I was stuck in that. Okay. Thanks.
Can you show this file again? I think Harshad also has two doubts. Question number 6 and 7. So 6 is reduce the 864 configurations to 32 configuration groups. Do this by making high, low levels for each of the group of the 5 configuration. How does reduce the 862 to 32 configuration group? Do this by making high, low groups. One second. Let me just show this. See, in this, what you have to do is you have to use the idea of grouping over here, right? So you will have to create the groups so that basically this 864 configurations are reduced to 32 configuration groups. So how can I get that? So basically what you have to do is if I just come over here, 864 divided by 32. So I have to create a group of 27 the configurations together. I mean 27 1 to 27 who should come in group 1, 28 to 29 should come in group 2, like that should come in group 2. So that is how you have to do it. Okay, so how will you be able to do it now? What technique you should use?
In the configuration, right click.
Hey Rama, can you try going in configuration and create group?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying now.
Create. Yeah. Then 1 to 27 is one group, right? So yeah.
But don't you think that this will take a lot of time in that case? If we do it this way, so you'll have to make 32 groups. So that is going to take a lot of time, right? So what you can do is, so just add a new sheet. Okay. And now do one thing, make a copy of configuration, right click and duplicate. Okay. Now bring it down, make it a measure. Right. Now drag this field in the columns. Wait, don't drop it. Remove it. And maybe you don't even need that field. Just go on the top configuration only. Right click on this and create bin. Okay, with a size of 27. Click OK. Okay, now bring this field on columns and now bring the count over there. Right, so now if you make it full screen, you get it 0 to 27, 27 to then likewise. So 27 you have got 33 groups, right? So you just have to make a small alteration in this, that the number should start from 1, not from 0, and you will end up getting the 32 groups in that case. Is the
Okay.
job done?
Okay.
Right, Harshit?
So, okay. Okay. Thanks.
And I guess this next question is in the same continuation. I guess it would be the next question number. On average, how far do customers travel to buy laptops? Create the distance between customer and the store and calculate the average distance over here. So you'll have to use this formula over here, first of all, to find the distance. So on an average, how far do customers travel to buy the laptop? So do you have this data, like where you have this the distance data with you?
Not distance.
So here it is.
Yeah, here it is.
Okay. So first of all, you'll have to create that field. So you have this field of COS X and COS Y. So you'll have to create that calculated field. So if you come over here, right, create a calculated field now. Okay, and you'll have to use that same formula that is given to you. So you'll have to be able to do it. Call this field as distance. Bracket is missing in the last. And make it square root multiplied. Just put no, this is correct. Square of cos x minus. This is it, x minus y plus what are these fields, right? So this is there some data missing in this? You should have x and y, right? So one is this. And
I think the postal codes.
you will have some
Store
more
location.
data also.
Yeah, store location is.
So this is basically the right now you have brought in
And laptops.
the point of sale. So you will have the customers data in which you will have their positions, like from where they are traveling. So you just have to find the difference between the points, and then what you have to do is you just have to calculate the average. Okay, so you have to just use this formula to do the calculation.
Okay. Okay.
So now I'll share my screen, right? So I'll just so anything else apart from that? Any other part? So now are you guys having that the confidence in the Tableau now? That how it works, how you're using it, and or you need some more help from my side? See, because Tableau is something, it could be like I just want to share this the part with you. So what happened is basically in the real time scenario, you will always find that these are the complete jobs like 70% of the jobs, they are always ready to be only part of SQL, Excel, and you're part of Tableau and Power BI. So 70% of the jobs in the market, they revolve around these couple of tools itself, right? SQL, the SQL plus Tableau plus Power BI. So Power BI is something that we will be learning. So Power BI is also a strong tool right now, which is catching up very fast, right? So it is like kind of replacing Tableau in the market, and plus your Excel. So these are the tools, these are the technology which, because these are like the base, because every journey starts from here. And then the upper part, the 30 part that we have, this is where the jobs related to the Python plus stats plus you're part of this what I will say is like your R is coming up, R plus machine learning. So that's where these kind of jobs come up. So we are going to start off with Python. Okay, so I'll request so please by using the Python, what we need to do is we need to install the navigator over here, that is Anaconda. So please I'll just share this link with you. So here it is. So if you just come on this link, okay, you download this. This is one thing that you will be requiring. So I'll tell you what exactly this is all about. Okay, so please download this and install it.
Amit, I have already installed Anaconda. So can you please check whether it's right version or not? I'll share my screen. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Is it
yes,
right?
yes. So you can just click on Jupyter over here.
Jupyter Lab.
No, so not lab. The second one, Jupyter Notebook.
Okay.
Yeah, just click on this. So this will launch the environment that we will be using.
Okay.
Amit, we have to download the 64-bit graphical installer, right?
So that depends on your machine. If you're using 32-bit, then install 32 one. Otherwise, if you're using 62-bit, so you can use that one, 64. So that depends on system configuration.
Okay. So now what?
Just wait. So I'll just like download it.
Okay.
I'll just
Okay. I'll stop sharing then.
Are you all able to access? So please let me know this. You all I just need 5 minutes. I think just give me 5 minutes. In the meantime, you all install it.
Hi, Amit. You're on mute. Amit?
Hello.
Hi, Amit.
Hi. How are you?
Install was complete and it is Anaconda Navigator. So it's all coming really zoomed in for me, but can I share my screen if this is the
You can do it, please.
yeah. This is what has come up after opening Anaconda Navigator.
Scroll down. Yeah, so you have all of them. So just the view is different. So you have this Jupyter notebook.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what we will be using.
So do I need to launch this?
Huh.
Jupyter Notebook.
Right. Right. I'm just sharing my screen. Okay. So, so we are going to start off with the Python over here. Now, my Python, like if we talk about the language that is Python over here, now it is not something new, right? Python is, it was, launched in around 1970s. So it's an old language that we all are going to learn over here. Anyone who is over here who has used Python in the past? Okay. No. See, now Python is a very versatile language, right? It's a very versatile language. So generally what happens is like all the other languages that you might would have heard of, right? Like for example, C, right? C++, right? You have Java. Now, these languages that were created, these were more of, I will say machine oriented languages, right? These are machine oriented languages. Now, what is machine oriented languages? A language that is used to make the life of machine easy, so that machine doesn't get a lot of load and machines can easily execute those codes and give you the results. So that is what we understand by machine oriented. Whereas when we talk of Python, right? So Python is more like, it's more like a, I will say human oriented language. It's more like a human oriented language. Now, what do I mean by human oriented languages? So basically this means that, in this language, it is created with a mindset that, a human should not have to write a big piece of code. He should just write, a small piece of code, and majority of the chunk and majority of the things should happen at the machine side. Okay, so it makes, Python makes life of developer easy. right? So as a developer, your things become easier. You have to write smaller piece of code and you are able to get your job done really quick. So that is why Python is more user friendly and it's more created with the mindset from the how the users basically how the uh, basically how the people can make benefit out of it. Now that is what Python is. Now Python is something which has lots of use cases, right? Python has multiple use cases. This is used for web development. This is used for application developments, and now this is also being used for data science, right? So it is now being used for data science as well. So these are the three different areas, and there could be more as well, for which the Python is used. And our focus is something that will be going to lie on the part of data science, that how this Python is useful for us and how we can use it into the context of data science now, right? So now, in order to use Python, so what you have done is you all have installed Anaconda Navigator. Okay, so just to tell you a point over here, Python is open source. Okay, what do you mean by open source? Anyone who would like
Anyone
to?
can use it.
Right, so anyone can use it. So anyone can use it, as in, you don't have to buy a license for that, right? That means the source code, right? The source code, the code of that language is available to everyone. It's free of use, right? An example that you can give of the open source versus the the opposite of that would be license based source or closed source.
JavaScript is open source. Would JavaScript count as open source?
Okay.
JavaScript.
So like if I give you a very practical example, that is Android versus iOS. The more layman's language, that the most layman's example that we can take over here. See, Android is open source, and whereas iOS is license based. So you would have seen that, like Android is something that is used by multiple companies, right? You can find an Android phone of Samsung also, OnePlus also, Xiaomi also, and I mean, multiple brands. But iOS is something that is only usable by Apple. No one else can use this, the operating system. Also, you would have seen, like in Android, you will find thousands of, games and applications, because any person can make a game or an application using Android, and he can also publish that onto the Google Play Store. But that is not the same case with iOS. In iOS, what happens is basically you have to take the permissions from the Apple. Then once you create your application, then finally when it gets, if without the permission and without the authentication from Apple, you cannot also publish that thing onto their Apple Store. So that is where we say that iOS is license based, where you have to, everyone cannot use its platform to create their this these services and all, right? I hope now the difference is getting clear. So same way, Python is also open source. Now anyone can use it and anyone can develop any other things inside this. So if we will also be learning about something called as R. R is also another language, and R is also, this is also open source. Okay, this is also open source. Basically, it's free of cost, available to anyone, to everyone. So do we have anything in data science which is license based, a tool which is license based? Yes, we have a lot of them. One such tool is SAS, right? Statistical Analysis System. Okay, you have another tool that is SPSS. Now these tools are basically license based tools, and these are very expensive, right? And if you talk about SAS, now SAS is one of the tools that is being used. It is one of the most popular tool in the data science field, but it has now lost its popularity because of the open source tools which are being available in the market. But right, the people, I mean, if I tell you, right, I started my career in 2011. Okay, so at that point in time, right, in 2011, SaaS used to be very, very popular. People didn't knew a lot about this tool. So, I mean, all the companies, they used to use SaaS only for all their analysis and everything for predictive modeling and all. And the license of the SaaS is very, very high, right? License of SaaS is, it costs into like millions for a company to procure and finally implement it. Okay. And I mean, in 2000, up till 2015, 16, SaaS used to be the choice of all the developers and the companies for all their predictive modeling and statistical analysis. But then came R and Python. These tools became really important because these tools got complete functionalities and libraries of data science. And on top of that, there was no cost that was involved. So companies switched from SAS and SPSS to R and Python. And I myself, I worked on one very big project. So there was a client that was Sainsbury's, for which we were working. And what they did was they had all the implementation on the SaaS. And now because R came into the picture and R was open source, there was no cost involved. They migrated all their statistical projects from SaaS to R, which helped them save millions of dollars that they were spending every year on this tool. Okay, so that is why these tools have become so popular today. Now, what happens is when we work with the Python now, right? Now, Python is a language which you can write in multiple environments, right? You can write the Python code in your command line. Okay. You can write your Python code in, your Google Colab. You can write your Python codes in Jupyter. You can write your Python codes in Spider. So there are multiple, I will say environments where you can write your Python programming. Okay, so basically what happened is this is something that is called as IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Okay, IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Basically what happened is Python writing Python in the command line is very, very boring, right? So command line can be very boring. So what we do is we have some some development environments where we can write our Python codes very easily. And some of them are Google Colab, Jupyter, and Spider. So in this training session, what we will be doing is we will be using Jupyter as our working environment, the development environment. And most of the places you will see, most of the companies, they also rely on Jupyter only. So that is why we will be learning to write the codes in Jupyter environment. Now, what was Anaconda that you installed? Okay, so this Anaconda Navigator that you have installed, it's nothing. It's like a complete, I will say a platform which gives you all the IDEs at one place. Okay, right? Like you go to a shopper stop. So it has all the brands under one roof, right? All the clothing brands under one roof. So same is the case with Anaconda. So Anaconda is a navigator that has been created, which gives you all these applications under one single roof, right? So now if you launch this, so let us do it. Is it on? Yeah. So here it is. So if you see now, you can see command prompt, Jupyter Lab, right? So these are all the IDEs. If you come down, and actually it's a heavy application, so it just sometimes takes a little time to respond. So you can see these are different applications from where you can launch, and it just not provides you the interface for Python, it also provides you the interface for R also. If you want to work with, when we will be learning R, and R Studio is the application that we will be using. So it hosts that R Studio also over here. So it has all the environments which are available. So since we all are going to use Jupyter, so you just click on launch. Okay, so when you launch this Jupyter over here, so this is how the interface is going to look like. Right now, this Jupyter is something, the interface where we will be writing all our codes. It opens up in the Internet Explorer, right? This is a web-based file that it opens up in the Internet Explorer. So it's not necessary that you should be connected to the internet, right? So that is not mandatory thing. So these files will just that they open in the Internet Explorer, but you don't need internet for that. Okay, and now if you will come over here and you click on new, and over here this Python 3, it will open a fresh file where you can write your codes. Now this is the window where you will be writing all the codes that we will be learning to write over here. So I request all of you to please open that up. I hope the Anaconda is installed by everyone. No one is having a challenge in that. Okay, so now we will see over here, we will use this just to do, if you write something like this, right? 8 plus 9, and you come over here and run it. See it, you write the code over here and it gets executed over here. It shows you the output right away. So just try this out. Just try some basic mathematical questions over here. Okay, you can just like normal mathematics, right? So you say 8 multiplied by 9 and you click on run over here, it executes it and shows you the result. Okay, so like for example, you want to do some multiplication, so you have done this, you want to do some division, right? So if you want to do the division over here, and anything that you write with the hash, this is called a comment. This is a comment, and you can write as many code as you want over here. Suppose if I now write 7 divided by 4, right? So if I now run this, it gives me output as 1.75, right? So if I say 7 divided by 4, now this is division. Suppose if you want to do some, there is something that is called as floor division. There is something that is called as floor division. Now, floor division is basically, when you want to divide some numbers, but you do not want to see the output in the form of decimal. Suppose if I say 8 divided by 3. So when you have to do a floor division, you will use 2 backward slash. If you say 8 this floor division by 3, and if you run this, you get the output as 2. So I'm telling you a shortcut also to execute the commands. Shortcut to execute the commands is this shift plus enter. Okay, shift plus enter. So floor division is, so if you see 8 divided by 3, so it gives you that the big divisor, that is the 2 over here. Okay, similarly, if you want to use the modulo operator, right? Modulo is something that gives you the remainder, right? Modulo operator. So if you say 8% 3, that is module. So if you will 8 divided by 3, what will be the remainder? Remainder will be 2. So you get that over here.
What is modulo?
Modulo is remainder. So
Okay.
if you will divide 8 by 3, you will get 2 as the remainder, right? Like for example, if I say 10 divided by 10 modulo 3. So if I'll divide 10 by 3, I'll get 1 as the remainder. Okay. If you want to find the power, see, I'm just doing just making you all a little bit just acclimatized with this interface, right? The first time the interface that you are seeing over here. You want to find the power, right? 2 raised to the power 3. You say 2 star star 3, it gives you 8. 2 raised to the power 3 is 8. So you can find the power over here. And it also follows the, the BODMAS concepts, right? Division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. So it by default follows that. See, now one very important note over here. Okay. The important note over here is Python operates in the RAM. Okay, Python works in the RAM, right? So random access memory. So basically whatever we are doing right now, whatever things that we have done, right? These numbers that are there. So all these calculations and everything is right now happening in the RAM. So Python, and this is the same case with R as well, right? They do not store anything on your, hard drive. All the calculations, all the data will be stored for the meantime in that RAM only. So the moment I'll close this file, what will happen is all these calculations, these numbers, they will be washed off. Okay. Or otherwise, what I will do is I will save this file. If you will save this file, so what will happen is the code will be saved, right? You will be saving the code. The output will not be saved. Output you will have to re-execute and you will have to regenerate, right? So output will not be generated. So Python, because it does each and everything in the RAM, it does not saves any of your outputs or any of your data, right? So if you have to do that, I mean, if you have to basically save that, you will have to save your data in some Excel or CSV file formats, which is like importing the data. You have to send the data from Python to some source where that data will be stored. Okay. So now if Python is storing all the data in the RAM, so how will you store it in Python itself, right? So basically now if suppose I want to store this number 100, so where shall I store it, right? I have stored this number 100. I want to use it later on. How will I use it? So that is where what we do is we use the concept of variables. Okay, we use the concept of variables. Variables are temporary storage locations. So how you will store the data is, how you will store the data is, if you create a variable, say suppose I say a equals to 100. Okay, now what I've done is I have created a variable, and in that variable I have stored the number 100. So that means wherever I will refer to a, that means I am referring to number 100. So if I just write a and print, see it says a is 100. If I say a multiplied or a divided by 2, I get 50, right? So please, so this is something that is called as a variable. So we are storing, we will always use variables to store the data in the Python. And moment I will close this file, all these variables will be deleted. But if I would have saved the code, I'll have to rerun this code so as to generate this data back again. I hope I'm making sense. Anyone, any questions up till here? Okay. And these variables, they also do reassignment. Variables can be reassigned. So what do I mean by reassigned is, if I say a equals to 20, previously the value of a was 100. Now if I say a equals to 20, now the value has been overwritten. So now the value of a has changed from 100 to 20 now. Okay. So the names we use for variables, right? The names that we use for variables has some, rules. You have to follow some rules for that. And what are those rules? The first rule is name cannot start with number. You cannot define a variable name which starts from number, right? You cannot say something like, one, two, you cannot define the variable name as 1, A, 2, B, 3, C. No, it cannot start with a number. You cannot use, you cannot have spaces in the variable name. You cannot have the spaces in the variable name, right? You cannot use special characters in the variable name. Okay. Then what you should do is you should avoid using the characters, in the, what I would say is, we should avoid using the names which are, which have special meaning in Python, right? So suppose, we will be learning a lot of stuff like, list, tuple, and all. Now these words have some special meaning in the Python. They are like the reserved words. So we should try to avoid using such names when defining a variable. Okay, and always try to keep the variable name as, something which defines what type of data you have saved in it. Okay, like for example, I want to create a variable income. Income is equals to 10,000. So it makes, the variable is self-explanatory that I am storing the income. Then I am saying my tax rate is equals to 0.1. That is 10% is something that I pay as a tax, right? So this is something that I am defining my variable as, right? So what will be my tax? If I have to calculate my tax, what will be that? My tax will be equal to income multiplied by tax rate. Okay, so it has been calculated. So I can say my tax is $1,000. I hope this part is clear up till here, the variables that we have assigned. Okay. Now, the next thing that we will see over here is we will try to see how strings in Python, right? So now we were just seeing the numbers, right? That how we were working with the numbers in the Python. Now we will see how we can use some, the strings in the Python, right? So how we can make use of some strings in the Python now. So what is string? String is like, the character data that we have. So what we do is, whenever you work with string, it's not just with Python, it's like with any other language. That's something that we have seen with the SQL also, right? So string values always come in the quotes, right? If I say hello Python, so if I'm writing something in strings, you have to make sure that comes in the quotes. Okay, you can use single quote also, and you can use double quote also, right? I'm also a string, so you can use any one of them. Okay. Now, if suppose you are writing multiple strings, right? If you are writing multiple strings, suppose you write, I am student one, I am student two, I am student three. Suppose we are writing this code. See, when I executed this, what has happened is I have only got the final one in the output. I haven't got all the three, right? So you have to be a little careful over here. If you have to print multiple string values, right? If you have to print multiple string values, you will have to use print command. Print is the command we use to generate output. So like for example, if I just copy the same code right now and I write it over here, and outside this, I will say print over here. Right? So now if you will run this, now it prints all the three values. But if you don't write print, so what happens in that case is it is going to show you in the output only the last one, because it executes this statement, then this statement, and this statement, and as a result, finally you get in the output only I am student. But when you are saying print, so what the print will do is it is going to throw each and everything on the output screen. So it is throwing this also on the output, this also, and this also. So as a result, you get 1, 2, and 3, all the three things in the output over here. I hope I am clear to all of you.
With print command, it's also not giving any inverted commas.
So print is basically a function. Print is a function. So the functions that we have, they do not come in the double quotes. It's a function that I'm using.
The output.
Huh?
Output is not having inverted commas.
Output will not have that print command, right? Because this is a function with the help of which I am throwing. So output is this only, right? Output is I am student one. So the print will not come over here in this case. It is printing this. Print command is printing this over here. That is why we are using print command over here.
Like for example, we wrote I am student 1, 2, 3 above. So in that, in the output, you see there are inverted commas. But using the print command, like it's a function which is printing what is inside the brackets in the parenthesis. But in the parenthesis, we also have those inverted commas, but in the output, we don't have it. Like we have it above in output 24.
Okay, you are talking about these quotes.
Yes.
So see, it's basically, what was happening over here was, so technically print will always give the output in the form of a text only. So that is why it doesn't show that quotes over here. So printing is like printing something in the form of a text only. So that is why you don't get that the quotes over here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See, now you can use like what we will do now is we will be talking about something like when it comes to strings, right? So what we can do over here is we can do some indexing of the string as well, right? Indexing, as in what happens in Python is there is something called as indexing of strings. So indexing means that like if suppose I have written a word something like this, hello world. So what will now happen is what Python will do is it will give some index that this is number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, space will be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So in the backend, right? So automatically what happen is Python does the indexing of the data. Okay, and indexing starts from 0, right? This is something that you have to. So what Python does is Python does indexing on the string data, and indexing starts from 0. Okay, indexing starts from 0. Now, for example, if I have the word written over here, let's create a variable. Suppose I'm creating a variable as, let's call it as country. Country equal to United States. America. Okay. Now on this country, if I come up and say that I want to see only the first word, that is U. So if I will write 0, so I am saying that this variable, from this variable, I only want to see the first word. So if I run this, it gives me the output as 0 over here. Okay, so this was the variable in which I had stored my data. Now I am saying from this, I only want to pick up the word which is lying at the index number 0. Same way, so please, I'll just wait. So you all try this once. Okay. Suppose if I say country and I say I want to see the word which is lying at the 10th position, right? Index number 10, not 10th position, index number 10. So that is T. So you have to start counting it. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is this. So I get this T in the output. You want to extract multiple data values. So you can say country, right? If you say you want to pull the data from starting from 0 up till 5th position. So it will start from the 0 and up till go to 5th position. Okay. Another way is you can also write the same thing like this: country up to 5th. See, when you don't give starting point, it by default Python assumes that you want from the start. So if I run this, it gives you the same output. And same way, if I write country, I say starting from the 5th, 6th position, and I leave everything. I leave the thing as blank after that. That means I want starting from the index number 6 up till the last one. So states of America, right? So this semicolon is used to give the starting and the ending point. If you want, you can also use negative numbers. If you say country and you say -1, right? So -1 means you are trying to extract the character from the last. That is A, right? So -1 means you want to extract it from the last.
Amit, in selecting 0 to 5,
Mhm.
shouldn't it have been united?
No, 0 will be this 1, 2, 3, and oh, sorry, I just forgot this. So basically, when you say this 0 to 5, it doesn't take the last one, 5th one. So it will grab only up till 4th position. So it doesn't take the last position in this case.
And
When you give this,
6, even in country 6 semicolon, it doesn't take the 6.
so no, it will come now. So this space that you see over here.
Okay, that is 6. Okay.
Uh,
So the end part it doesn't take.
the end part it doesn't take.
Okay.
Thanks for reminding this. So this it doesn't take the end part. So when you say 0 to 5, it will go up till 0 to 4 only. Okay. So you can say we can call it as up to and not including. So it doesn't include the last part in this. So it says up to and not including. So it doesn't include the third index, last one. The last point you will mention, it will not include that. Okay. Now, same way, if I ask you a question, grab everything except the last character. So how will you write for that? How will you do that? You want to extract complete thing except for the last character.
Semicolon -1. Country semicolon and -1.
Correct, right? So you will say this country, come over here, semicolon, -1. Right? So you won't get the last A in this. Right, Anusha? So, yep, so this is what we will do. Okay. So now you can use some properties also. Suppose you want to find the length of the string. You want to find the length of the string. Like we did this thing in the Excel also. If you say len, this is a function. You want to find the length of country. So it will give you that there are 24 characters in that.
Amit, if we want to print some random letters, then
Random letters.
like in
See,
the
you don't have the function of random letters, you have the function for random numbers.
oh no, now in the same string, if I want to print like United and then give a gap and then America, that's it. States of, if I don't want to print, then
Sorry, can you come again?
in United States of America, I just want to print United America, and I just want to omit that states of.
So for that, we'll have to use functions, and we will be using, other functionalities like vectors and everything, which I'll be telling you that how you can control if you want to pick up the numbers which are more like you are saying that you want to pick first 5 characters and then you want to pick last 6 characters. So we'll have to use some functions for that, which I'll
Oh.
tell you.
Okay.
Okay. You want to do some concatenation. Suppose, I have two variables. Suppose, one is country, and then we have one another variable. Suppose let's call that variable as hello, right? Let's create one more variable, that is hello. If you want to combine or concatenate, right? If you have to concatenate the strings, what you can do in that case is you can simply write country plus h. So when you write plus symbol between two string values, it is just going to concatenate that. United States of America, and this was hello with a space. So it combines these two variables together and you get the complete output over here. Okay, and you have some functions, inbuilt functions that you can use, on Python on your strings, like you have upper and lower, some basic function that I would like to tell. So for example, this is, you have this written country. If you say country variable dot, I apply a function of lower on this, right? See, it converts each and everything into the lowercase. Same way, if you will use upper, if you say country dot upper, it is going to convert each and everything into the uppercase. So lower and upper, these are the functions that you can use. Okay. So I think this is where, I'll take a pause for today and we'll continue the things from here tomorrow. So maybe, this week we will be spending the time on learning the programming of Python, maybe this week, and we might need some days next week also. And then we will come to the part of statistics and we will learn on how do we do that, the modeling and all in the Python. That is what we will move ahead as the next step. Okay.
If we'll close this file, this all will wipe away, right? So
So you can save this file. You can just click on this save and you can save it. So what happens is the file gets saved with this name untitled 15, but you can double click over here and you can rename the file. Suppose you want to save it by today's date, suppose 5th, today's 10th of May. So you just rename this and then you can save it. Okay, so you can save this file.
where is it getting saved?
So it will be saved, the location from where this Python was opened. So you'll have to check where this Python is installed, and that is where this Python would have been saved. So when you launch it for the first time, right, like you can get that thing, you can note that thing from there only. When you launch it for the first time, so you will see this is the folder. It shows you that path over here directly, the path of that folder where that what's that path is. So if you just click on this, right? So generally you will find it as a part of your downloads. In the downloads, you will find this. Just okay.
And then if we click on that file, it will open up in Jupyter.
So it will open up directly in the Jupyter only. So this
What
is
is the like extension which is used for?
extension is PYNB, Python Notebook, PYNB.
That is only for Jupyter or for all Python files?
Python, only Jupyter, PYNB. So it stands for Python Notebook. So it will open only in the Jupyter interface. It will not open in any other interface. Okay. And you will see those files over here also, right? Once that file is saved, if you will come over here, you can see this file over here right now. This is the file that I've just saved a minute ago. And I can see all the other files as well, which are the previous files that I have. They are all saved over here. Okay. So once you just click on that, so it opens it. And you can open it from wherever it is downloaded. You can open it from there also. Okay. So thanks everyone. So see you all tomorrow. Hey, hi Shamila. So Tableau you have already done. Is your Tableau training done, Shamila?
No, I have not done actually. I've done only SSRS and SSIS in my previous employer. I'm trying to learn Tableau. I just went into the YouTube videos which Pavan sent me to just go through. I have checked everything, but I don't have the exercises which others have done. I need some exercises and I need to start doing it.
Okay. Sure. So can you just ping me your email address? I'll just mail you.
Actually, Amit, we have a Google Classroom in which all the files and assignments are saved for Tableau.
Oh, has anyone done that? Okay, I think Pawan might would have saved all those things over there.
No, yeah, I only did it. So
Oh, you
asked me to save all our files and assignments over there. So we have all the folders: Excel, Python, Excel, Tableau, SQL, class files, as well as the assignments over there.
Oh, great. So
Share
so Shamila, are you added in that class now? Or if not, so I think I'll ask Pawan to add you over
Yeah,
there.
actually.
You will have access.
Okay.
Sure. So let me just inform him so he'll add you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for uploading all those things. So what I'll do is going forward for Python also, I'll just put all those files in that classroom only instead of sharing those things on the WhatsApp or Gmail.
I have a question. Is Tableau, all the topics in Tableau is over?
So Tableau we completed last week, yeah.
Okay. What about this Power BI?
Power BI we will be doing after the Python. So once we complete Python, then we'll start with Power BI.
Okay. Okay then. Okay. Thank you.